What's going on? Donnie Chocolate here, back with another lesson. All right. This is Donnie Chocolate. I call myself the barbershop professor, and here's why. Everybody, I got all kind of degrees and everything like that, right? But that's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to really sit through, like the other day, I watched FD the Signifier, shout out to him, for an hour and a half, right? Because I'm a nerd like that, right? You may be a nerd in a different way. Information is information. And what I'm trying to do is get the information to you in a casual way, just like we do at the barbershop. So if you ever been to a black barbershop, go and hit a like. If you ever talk crazy at a barbershop, go and hit a like. If you ever just got cleaned up, faded up, go and give me a like, go and subscribe. If this is your second video watching me, you might as well subscribe. I'm gonna keep on coming with it. Press all the buttons, y'all. Press all the buttons. Today, we're gonna talk about something that shouldn't be as heavy, but is heavy. We're talking about reparations. Now, let me be honest, y'all. Reparations ain't popular. They're just not. A lot of our politics and a lot of our policies are moved by popularity. So what? It doesn't matter, right? Right is right, wrong is wrong, right? So let's start going into reparations, and let me be clear. Let me just full disclosure. Here's my truth. Not even my truth. Here's what I've come up with, right? Here's what I believe. Black people deserve reparations. Let me say it again if I wasn't clear enough. Black people in America deserve reparations. All right? Now let's get into it. So recently, California has come out and been in the news, and there's this big number, like I think 1.8. Some people, they've done a study, they've done a committee, they crunched all the numbers, and what they came up with is that some citizens in the state of California would be owed up to $1.8 million because of the oppression and the systematic racism that has held their families down for generation after generation. First, one thing I want to bring up, and I was watching a channel, and very smart person, lawyer even, and something totally different than anything cultural or whatever, right? And they spoke about California reparations, and they were like, I don't know why they would even need to give reparations. They weren't a slave state. And I thought to myself, if you are smart enough to pass the bar, if you are smart enough to have some type of law history ability, you are totally ignoring the facts when it comes to why black people deserve reparations. So here's the deal. We can start all the way back. Let's start with slavery, right? Now, everybody knows the term 40 acres and a mule, right? What that was intending to do is actually give black people an opportunity to build for themselves, right? 40 acres and a mule. That was the equivalent of what would be, I don't know, a tractor and some land, or a business loan, something to the equivalent, right? So this was really important. These people had been taken away from families, broken apart. They've been broken down. They've been disallowed to read or write. They've been disallowed to do any knowledge seeking outside of the parameters of the master, white folks, right? That's a theme. Outside those parameters, we'll keep thinking about it. We'll talk about that later, right? It is my goal to get you to pause and to understand where these opinions come from, or to think about the fact that they come from nowhere. They don't have any backing to their opinions. It's just an opinion. Anyway, let's get back to slavery. Essentially, what happened was people were just say, hey, you're free to go. They don't have a dollar to their name, barely the clothes on their back, no knowledge of how to uh, buy property and purchase property. No, all the skills and everything like that, because don't get it twisted, people who were enslaved were also very skillful people in multiple ways, could not put those skills into practice for themselves and to build for themselves, whether that be communities, whether that be families, personal wealth, all those different things. They had no opportunity. So after slavery, there's a little thing called the 13th Amendment. And what the 13th Amendment was a amendment that wrote in slavery under the penalty of incarceration. Therefore, if you are incarcerated, you are effectively enslaved. They can use you for any type of work that they want to. You are almost their property, essentially. All right. With that, there was enacted some other laws, right? The black codes, right? The black codes consisted of putting black people specifically, in jail for things such as loitering, right? If you didn't have a job and they caught you standing on the corner, loitering, right? Jaywalking, right? Really petty things that they would quickly throw you into jail for, and for crazy sentences, years at a time. Well, once they got to those jails, what did the jails do? They leased out these people to the farm areas and different things like that they did. A lot of black people who were previously enslaved got picked up on these bogus charges and end up going right back to the plantation that they worked on previously and still working for free. There were laws enacted specifically to contain and keep oppression steadfast when it came to black people and their ability to be independent and their ability to build for themselves. Keep going down. Everybody knows the Jim Crow laws, right? Segregation, right? Everything was uneven, unequal, right? The black neighborhoods looked a certain way and the white neighborhoods looked a different way. I don't know if you ever heard of redlining, right? Where they draw this red line on the map, and that's where all the black people stay, and they can't go outside of that. Because once a black person moves into the white neighborhood, that phrase, there goes the neighborhood, right? Prices go down, all different types of things. If you are more interested in that, look up The Color of Law. That's a really good book, kind of going over housing practices, right? Not to mention, when we talk about the Europeans who were here, every step of the way, they have been literally given wealth, right? When it comes to the U.S. and the colonies moving more further and further west, people literally took land. You could walk up to somewhere in the West and you could just stake it out and you can claim it from the Homestead Act. People could keep that land, sell that land, farm that land. Maybe they just kept it and then a highway was built there, so they got money off of it, or other things were built around that land. It became prime real estate. A lot of people struck oil on just some of these claims, right? White people specifically, they were able just to go out and claim land, right? The FHA loans, we all know them now, but back in the day, black people couldn't participate in those programs. Even healthcare. We don't have a universal healthcare system because after the Civil War, right, even though they saw all of these horrible atrocities, right, for white folks, they didn't have a universal healthcare program because it would have had to include black people. Look it up. I don't need you to believe me. I don't expect you to believe me. I don't even want you to believe me. I want you to take a little tidbit and look at it for yourself. Go research healthcare in Black people after the Civil War. Go research redlining. Go research Black codes. Go research the 13th Amendment. These and more were all policies instilled after slavery, right? After we were enslaved, to continue to keep us at a low class, second class level. Now, the results of those policies are still happening today, right? The spirit of those policies are still happening today. Black people get less business loans. Black people are, the wealth gap is less, right? I remember Obama used to always talk about a rising tide lift all boats, right? But why is our tide always lower than everybody else's? There is systemic things that have happened, systemic policies actively that this country has done, right? I know we have affirmative action. Even that is not standing, right? Black people have been a part of building this country. Matter of fact, Black people, like this country was built on the backs of Black people. Check out Claude Anderson's Black Labor, White Wealth, right? We deserve reparations. So the fact that it's unpopular is a moot point in my mind, right? And of course it's going to be unpopular, right? There's going to be other communities. There's going to be white folks. Hey, why do they get a handout? If you're not understanding the process of what has happened to us throughout the history of this country, how we've been deprived of the opportunities they had, right? I know somebody who has land on, in a very rural area, and they've been able to do stuff. And, the grandfather came out and they worked the land. I'm sure your grandfather, your white grandfather worked really hard. I'm sure you are working really hard to be able to keep that wealth and manage that wealth. At the same time, your grandfather had the opportunity. Those opportunities were taken from us. Those opportunities were stolen from us. Therefore, it is on the backs of America to make that right. Now, it's really interesting too, because when you start thinking about just the idea, right? The psychology behind repair, right? Reparations, repair, right? What has the U.S. repaired? What has the U.S. even admitted? The idea to repair something goes against everything America stands for. What we've done to what we call Native Americans and the indigenous people here in America is swept under the rug, right? What we've done across the world when it comes to tampering in political campaigns and even carrying out political assassinations, all for the sake of wealth and economics and maintaining our economy and maintaining our tentacles of control across the world. We don't admit these things, no matter the evidence. They don't repair these things. They don't give back. They don't help restore these countries. They don't help restore these people. Now, another thing when it comes to reparations is we don't have the money. How are you going to pay for it? This is so annoying. You know why? Because we throw money at every other problem. Not every other problem, but we throw money at so many problems. When it comes to our military has been audited like, 4, 5, 6, 7 times or something like that. They cannot place and cannot account for over $1 trillion. Yet every year, like clockwork, we're going to raise that budget. When it comes to quantitative easing, right? In 2008, that was a quantitative easing was like one of those fancy academic words for just printing money. And just like anything else, if you pour more into it, like you're gonna dilute it, right? You know, that's what they did. They printed more money. They made a way when they wanted to, right? There are people, you know, sure, Native Americans got some land back. Give them more. Actually, I think if they were actually in control of the legislations and procedures when it came around like any type of land husbandry or whatever, like we'd probably be living in a better, more beautiful country. Now, we wouldn't be able to capitalize off of everything. We wouldn't be able to just mow stuff down without thinking about the actual impact, not only to the specific area, but to us and to the world. We need nature, right? That's here nor there, right? We give money to other countries on a yearly basis, millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. We give, when it came to, hey, the war in Ukraine, right? We threw money at them for the sake of war, right? And that's not to say that they shouldn't be defending themselves or that Putin was right. He's a tyrant. It's just to say we throw money everywhere. And when it comes to black people finally getting their just due and it being their turn to get some type of reparations, right? Because the money ain't never enough, right? People were killed. My grandfather is a sharecropper, or was a sharecropper in his earlier years. The oldest of 10, had to work, only got a 3rd grade education, 6 years old, 7 years old, 12 years old, tied to a plow and a mule, right? That's my grandfather, and that wasn't slavery, from Mississippi. The backwoods in Mississippi too, the rural Mississippi. These are the things that are done, right? The credit system, loans, right? I mentioned sharecropping. Like you couldn't even purchase the tools. You had to lease the tools. You couldn't even purchase the land. You had to lease the land and give them a certain amount of crop, whether you had a good year or a bad, not a percentage, a certain amount. These people were put in debt, right? Our jokes about black people having bad credit, it all comes from somewhere. And if I don't teach you nothing on this channel, if I don't inspire, and if I don't get through to you, I want to get this through. These things come from somewhere. You may not know yet, but that's okay. Just understand these things come from somewhere. The backlash when it comes to actually giving black people money and giving them reparations, it makes all the sense in the world that it's unpopular. All the sense in the world. Because it'll hurt. That's a labor that you have to do to repair, to make things right. It's not easy making things right. The people who white people who living in the system, right, been minding their own business. It's hard to actually take responsibility for the system that you live in, built on the backs of black people, built off the stolen wealth of black people, built off the stolen lives of black people. It's hard to move out of your comfort. That's why it's unpopular. Popularity shouldn't be the basis of justice. Let me say this again. That was a bar. Popularity shouldn't be the basis of justice. We should be looking to our histories. We should be digging into them, seeing what the causes were. Like I said before, black people deserve reparations. All right. So if you made it to this video, you gotta like this video. If you made it to the end of this video, you gotta subscribe. I'm gonna keep on coming. There's so many things so many things that I hear, so many policies, so many opinions, so much stuff, and people make it seem like it comes out of thin air. There's always something behind it. There's always something behind it. And I'm not gonna necessarily, again, I'm the barbershop professor. It's not my job to just hit you with the with every fact, right? Or to write a paper on this. You know, it's not my job to necessarily give you all the research. There's plenty of great channels for that. What I just want to introduce you to is a seed. I just want to plant a seed that there's more to meets the eye. There's more behind the curtain. And if you don't realize that there's more behind the curtain, you're just getting steered wherever they want you to, like sheep going to slaughter. All right, y'all. That's the end of today's class. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for rolling. Give land back. Give black people reparations and all of the above. Peace out. Donnie Chocolate, Barbershop Professor.